has decriminalized it. And even our colonial masters, like you mentioned, the British, they have also decriminalized it. So what has been our challenge here in Ghana?
Yeah, so the challenge here, it's two things. It's either you go through parliament to have it decriminalized, or you invoke the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court.
Hence
and then
lawsuit.
Yes, hence the lawsuit.
Okay.
And then you should be able to canvass, if you are going to the Supreme Court, you should be able to canvass your arguments around constitutional provisions in order to point out that the current status quo is in contravention with certain key provisions in the Constitution. And to that extent, you are inviting the Supreme Court to pronounce that Section 57 should be expunged from our laws. Yeah.
Now, I've been reading portions of this suit that you have filed at the Supreme Court, and a portion of it says that you find it very insensitive and counterproductive to imprison someone who has had an attempted suicide. Can you explain that to me?
Yes, I mean, the first thing, in answering that, the first thing I'll come to is that the whole point is that anybody who attempts to commit suicide is suffering from a certain mental health issue. And now, preceding my arguments, I started with colossal chunk of medical authorities in order to create or to level the platform for me to come in with my argument. Now, suicide, as by experts say, that is a response to the stimuli of pain or despair. So, pain or despair, you can have schizophrenia, you can have depression, you can have anxiety disorders. Now, there are other feelings that also cause suicide ideations. Now, so probably you've lost a relative, loss of job, earnings, all that pain. Now, we all have thresholds in withstanding pain. So somebody might be suffering from, say, some chronic disease. That person begins to have suicide ideations and would say that I cannot bear this any longer and I want to kill myself.
Exactly.
So in that situation, when the person attempts suicide and fails, do you say that that person should be put behind bars?
But then I would also ask you, if you are asking for it to be decriminalized so that people will not be put behind bars, then just every Tom, Dick, and Harry just wakes up in the morning and goes, oh God, I can't take this anymore, let me take my life. Then we would have more cases than the 800,000 that the World Bank has recorded so far annually.
Yes, there are a number of cases that are unreported, and about 13% of Ghana's population have mental health issues.
Yes, that's very correct.
3% have chronic or serious mental issues, whilst the remainder have medium to mild symptoms. The whole sense of it is that if you look at Article 29(4), it says that the provision talks about protection of disabled persons against laws or regulations that seeks to degrade or are exploitative or are discriminatory against persons with disability. Now, the argument is that persons who demonstrate or who seek or have attempted suicide, the argument has already gone on in my previous submissions that they are suffering from a certain impairment. That impairment under the Disability Act defines it as a disability. So that if it is a disability, coming under Article 29(4) means that such persons need to be protected against any law that seeks to either discriminate against them because they don't have a physical manifestation of a disease, because the person might be having an internal disease, as Lord Diplog would say. That person is suffering from an internal disease and will not be in the position to say, I'm suffering from malaria or suffering from typhoid fever. But the person will be behaving in a certain way, which you might find that either the person is having a behavioral issue or some other thing. And in a short while, you hear that the person has attempted suicide.
So, understand me, I'm not trying to put a negative tag on the suits that you have filed in court. I'm all for it. But then, for the masses out there, when it comes to social welfare in our country, many people who are even disturbed emotionally or are going through depression do not even have psychological facilities to walk to for advice and for guidance, number one. And then in this country of ours, where social protection is a major challenge, people die, elections happen, people are shot dead and everything, and the law doesn't say anything. We sit for years and months and nothing is done about it. If you open the floodgates for suicide attempts to be decriminalized, where are we going? It means that more people will be dying and the nation or the states will not be able to do anything to help them. Do you understand my point?
I get you. So if you look at the Mental Health Act,
right,
Section 42, it deals with voluntary and involuntary patients. So voluntary patients are people who have history of mental issues or mental health issues. Now, involuntary patients are those who don't have history all the same. And where one suspects or is in the contemplation that this person stands to injure himself and third parties or persons in society, that person needs to take steps in court in order to procure that person from society into a facility for his rights to be upheld as somebody who is suffering from a mental health issue. So it goes out to people in our homes that if somebody is demonstrating or showing a certain degrading level of intolerance to either pain or to any situation that the person finds himself in from his normal state, you should be able to assist the person. You shouldn't see the person as, why are you behaving this way? Your mood has changed and the thing continues severally. That is, we need to be responsive to our own people.
Okay, so two questions before we go. First of all, have you had any response to this suit that you have filed at the Supreme Court? And secondly, which departments are you working with to be able to get to where you want to get to with this agenda?
Well, basically, this agenda, I had an interview on your platform. That was some years ago, about 2 years ago.
When did you file this, by the way? It
was filed early this year.
Okay.
Yeah. So just before we came for legal vacation. Yeah. So I had my lawyers file it. Now, and I was on with the head of the Mental Health Authority, and he expressed difficulty. Just like you said, there's been petitions and things to Parliament, and nothing is happening. So I just sat down.
Since 2012.
Yes, I just sat down. So it just occurred to me before coming to vacation, and so that, I mean, how can we sort this thing out? So then I looked at Article 17, which deals with discrimination, yes, and then I also looked at Article 15, which also deals with these matters. I also looked at Article 29(4), which also deals with this matter. And then further looked at whether how section that the Mental Health Act interacts with the Section 57(2). Yes. And also look at issues of the mens rea. You know, where someone is suffering from a mental health issue, how does it vitiate, you know, the whole offense? Because if it vitiates it, then no offense is committed at all. So these are the constitutional provisions that we canvassed ourselves under.
Counsel, one may say that we move from one before we get to two. Why won't you rather advocate for social protection agencies to actually be at work, making sure that there are facilities, there are shelters and stuff for people who are suffering from mental ailments, and that even pushes them to commit suicide, rather than just jumping to decriminalize it?
What one perceives as unlawful is unlawful. What one perceives as affecting the rights of persons is for one to interrogate it, and that is what I'm doing legally. We have institutions like the Mental Health Authority, and it falls on them solely to advocate and do more in these areas. Interestingly, I mean, from the time we filed this, we had almost all the media houses coming through to cover the filing and have held several interviews. It's not just about the coverage, it's about getting results. Yes. And so that will be my final question to you, that exactly where do you want to get with this, and within which time frame are you working? For me as a lawyer, because the objective, still recording cases daily. For me as a lawyer, the objective is to see the legal conclusion of it. Whether the Supreme Court would grant it in our favor
Right.
or not. If it doesn't even go in our favor, it will be reported in the law reports, and it will be the beginning of a greater fight tomorrow. Because at the end of the day, it depends on the minds of the panel at the time, whether Ghana is ready to have this decriminalized, or they'll wait in the future to have a new panel. So it is a discretion that, or it is an area that I don't even want to venture, because it is solely for the Supreme Court to think about. But a lot of work, so for me as a lawyer, this is all I can do. But a lot of the work sits on the laps of the mental health authority. If they are failing to stand up to these things, for the social support systems, I can only bring out legal arguments to support their social argument, because the agitations that they do, they are social arguments. But we are looking at it in the context of the law to see how we can use the law to cause change in society. And that is the primary optimus of us. Aside it, there's little that we can do.
So say this change has been caused, because I want to believe, not that I want to believe, there are so many people who have been imprisoned because of attempted suicide.
Yes.
So let's just say that you're able to get somewhere with this. Those who have been imprisoned already, would they be acquitted and discharged and probably compensated in this country where we know we do very little when it comes to compensation?
Interestingly, dealing with compensation, the member of parliament for Medina, what's his name? Yeah, he's pioneering. Yes. He's pioneering something under the criminal laws to have some compensation regimes, not just discretionary, but to follow some order in that regard. So we'll see what will happen. And I don't want to be preemptive of what my lords would do, because the matter is sub judice. Yes, so once it's sub judice, it means that it is a live matter in court. And for me, I'm just a party. That is why I'm able to comment a little on it. But to the extent, like I said, the mental health authority needs to take the torchlight. And interestingly, they've not made noise about this.
So it's becoming like a one-man show for you, I can imagine.
Yes, they've not made noise about this.
All the very best. Let's see where you're able to get with this. It was filed earlier this year.
Yeah, it was filed somewhere around April thereabout.
So in your estimation, when do you think you can get a response?
Oh, the new legal year. AG's responded, and yes, we are yet to follow through with procedures, and then we'll get dates from the registry at the Supreme Court and follow through.